So, Simon, this is a report which is based solely on the views of more than 1,000 minority Britons from across the UK. And you can see it really as being a snapshot of their views now towards the police. Now, if we dive down into these figures a bit more, almost 2/3 of those who were surveyed said they felt the police were biased against their ethnic or cultural group. But just to show the diversity of views across these different groups, that figure rose to 80% among black respondents, specifically those from Caribbean and African backgrounds. Now, when it came to how minority groups felt about the police as a whole, 64%, so again, almost 2/3, thought the police were good. But what's really interesting is how the view differs between age groups. If you're over 65 and from a minority background, 81% of those think the police as a whole are good, but that drops to just over 55% of 16 to 24-year-olds. Now, at a time when attitudes to race are firmly under the spotlight in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement, and often those incidents are amplified on social media, it's really interesting to see, could the Black Lives Matter movement have changed or affected the views of younger people towards the police? Back in May, a protest movement was accelerated by a moment. George Floyd's death in the United States led to a tidal wave of anger and emotion, which soon reached Britain. Since then, our own police have been under the spotlight. Protesters demanding equality and questioning how our police forces operate. Among the crowds, there are recent reflections, anecdotes and experiences with the police which have contributed to the debate. Some of them from people with high profiles.
Look at this, look at this.
British athlete Bianca Williams and her husband received an apology from the Met Police after being stopped and searched. In the last week, London Labour MP Dawn Butler was pulled over by the police. She's labelled the incident as racial profiling at its worst. The Metropolitan Police have vehemently denied this.
No, actually, look, yeah, film that, please. Yeah.
Andrew Boateng is a football coach who was on a charity bike ride with his 13-year-old son a few weeks ago when plainclothes police officers armed with tasers handcuffed them.
This is what's happened to my son's face.
This video was widely shared online. The police were responding to reports of a nearby stabbing and after receiving a complaint, said they take all matters seriously.
Do you think that the police stopped you and your son because you're black?
I have no shadow of a doubt that that was the main reason why. When asked, who they were looking for, they said that the description was a black male, so an IC3 on a bike. I mean, it wouldn't happen the way it unfolded if I was a white person.
So what are the police saying about this report?
Well, the National Police Chiefs Council, they've said they've recently invested significant time and resources so they can better engage with communities of all backgrounds. And they say they're also developing a plan to address racial inequalities in policing. Now, earlier on, I spoke to Andy George from the National Black Police Association, and he gave some insight into what he thinks the police still need to do.
I think every day officers do the best they can. I am a firm believer the majority of officers are out there to keep people safe. But unfortunately, I think there is a lot in the systems and processes in policing, particularly around our training, our culture, and some of our briefings that prime our officers to view black people in particular in a different way and see them more as criminals than other members of the society.
So we can see from this survey it's raised fundamental questions about how minority groups feel they're being policed. I think the response from the National Police Chiefs Council shows that they see this as being a challenge which they want to respond to.
Warren, thanks very much indeed.